Hello and welcome to the podcast. This is Ron's Amazing Stories. We have stories that should thrill you a little and chill you a little.
It's amazing.
What you'll hear are adventures sent in by you guys, classic stories from the pulp mags, and episodes from the golden age of radio. We have special segments like Ghost Stories with Sylvia.
That's amazing.
And These Are Your Stories. So settle in for the next hour and enjoy the show. One more thing. You just might want to prepare yourself to be taken away from today.
Another 5-minute mystery.
This 5-minute mystery is being brought to you by the word bumfuzzle.
That's not a word.
Oh, but it is. You might hear your great-grandparents use it. It refers to being confused or perplexed.
Are we talking about the 5-minute mystery?
Possibly, or it just might be my state of mind.
Police headquarters, Inspector Hoskin speaking.
Police.
Yeah? Yeah, what is it?
Sam Blake speaking, 37 Hudson Way. Come quick, my wife is dead. Gas.
Dead? How long?
I don't know. Just got home.
37 Hudson Way. Okay, be right out. And in the meantime, you better throw open those windows and doors. Hey, Mike, grab your chapeau. We got some calling to do. Mr. Blake?
Yes, Inspector. Come right in.
Thanks. Oh, Mr. Blake, my assistant, Mike Kusky.
Howdy.
Where's the body? You haven't moved her?
No, sir. She's here in the kitchen.
Oh, yeah.
Right where I found her.
Of course. Well, Mike and I'll just have a look.
And there she is, Inspector. Dead as a doornail.
Gassed, all right. You can still smell a little.
It looks like most of the gas came from the oven. The door's still a little open. What's that?
My simple powers of deduction would say it's a bird.
Oh, there it is, a canary. A bird cage in the kitchen, huh?
Yeah, but right now we better get back to Mr. Blake. Now, Mr. Blake, if you don't mind, there are just a few routine questions. I'd like to know exactly what happened.
Well, sir, I just come home from the game tonight. I'm quite a fan, but my wife didn't care much for sports, so I usually went alone. As I was saying, the game was over about 10:20, I should say.
And you came right home?
Yes, sir. I drove and made it home about 11. I thought I smelled something when I tried the door, and the minute it was open, it hit me in the face. Gas all over the place. I rushed in, calling to Jane, and when I went to turn off the jets, I found her there on the floor, dead.
I see.
Of course, I knew she was gone when I found her. First thing I could think of was to call the police.
Your wife has obviously been dead since about 10. Mr. Blake, if you don't mind my asking, just what happened in the last few seconds of play at the game?
Why, Zakowitz fumbled, and Carlton recovered for an 80-yard touchdown run. Well, look here, Inspector. What are you driving at?
Just that in case this shouldn't be suicide, I wanted to know if you could back up your alibi.
Not suicide. What are you driving at, boss?
Yes, Inspector. What are you driving at?
Just this, Mr. Blake. I arrest you for the murder of your wife.
What did Mr. Blake overlook? Do you know the clue? In a moment, we'll hear firsthand from the inspector. But first...
Well, I'm thinking of two things he overlooked.
Oh, this ought to be good. Let's hear them.
Well, the main thing is, why would she just stand there and die?
Okay.
I mean, could she smell the gas?
Well, one would think.
Also, the bird bothers me.
And why would a caged bird worry you?
Well, that's just it. Why keep a bird in the kitchen?
Your deductions are downright scary.
Why, thank you.
It was not a compliment.
And now let's see if your powers of deduction are the same as the inspector's.
You can't arrest me. I was at the game till 10:20. I proved it. And you said yourself my wife died 20 minutes before.
I haven't forgotten the powers of radio, Mr. Blake, but there are a few things you did forget. First of all, if you wanted to kill your wife and then make it look like she was overcome by gas, it might have helped if you'd turned on enough gas. Your wife was dead from another cause, the source of which will be found in an autopsy before the gas jet was even opened. The thing you forgot, Mr. Blake, is that canaries are quite as susceptible to gas as human beings. If there had been enough gas in that kitchen to kill a woman, a small bird certainly could not have survived. And your singing canary is still alive, Mr. Blake. Very much alive.
See, I knew something about the bird was off.
Wrong. The bird is not the only thing that is off.
What are you trying to say?
Just this. Somewhere there's a village missing its idiot.
Okay, now you're just being mean.
No, I am just saying, why not go back to your village? They miss you.
What's that you say?
Hello, and welcome to the podcast. Today on the show, we have a theme, and it is the Western. Our audiobook review is a Louis L'Amour novel. Your stories have cowboys in them. And our featured story comes from the OTR series, Gunsmoke. Doesn't get much more Western than that. So what do you say we get started? Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/Ron's Amazing Stories. Audible has sponsored the show now since July of 2019. We have reviewed more than 140 audiobooks, and the list keeps growing. Did you know that Audible has over 200,000 books available? And a lot of those are included in the free catalog. Audible is amazing, and it is the perfect companion to Ron's Amazing Stories. If you like this podcast, you're going to love Audible. So what am I listening to? Mistakes Can Kill You, a collection of Western stories by Louis L'Amour and narrated by Lance Axt. There'll never be another Western writer like Louis L'Amour, a legend and undisputably the greatest storyteller in his genre of all time. L'Amour captivated millions of readers and has sold well over 300 million copies of his work, which includes nearly 90 novels and who knows how many short stories there were. This audiobook contains 9 of his early works that exemplify the rugged morality of the Old West. In the story Black Rock Coffin Makers, 2 men are ready to kill over ownership of a ranch, but they get more than they bargain for when a stranger is caught in the crossfire. Here is a clip from that story.
Jim Gatlin had been up the creek and over the mountains, and more than once had been on both ends of a six-shooter. Lean and tall, with shoulders wide for his height and a face like saddle leather, he was, at the moment, doing a workmanlike job of demolishing the last of a thick steak and picking off isolated beans that had escaped his initial attack. He was 1,000 miles from home and knew nobody in the town of Tucker. He glanced up as the door opened and saw a short, thick-bodied man. The man gave one startled look at Jim and ducked back out of sight. Gatlin blinked in surprise, then shrugged and filled his coffee cup from the pot standing on the restaurant table. Puzzled, he listened to the rapidly receding pound of a horse's hoofs, then rolled a smoke, sitting back with a contented sigh. 250-odd miles to the north was the herd he had drifted northwest from Texas. The money the critters had brought was in the belt around his waist and his pants pockets. Nothing remained now but to return to Texas, bank the profit, and pick up a new herd. The outer door opened again, and a tall girl entered the restaurant. Turning right, she started for the door leading to the hotel. She stopped abruptly as though his presence had only then registered. She turned and her eyes widened in alarm. Swiftly she crossed the room to him. "Are you insane?" she whispered. "Sitting here like that when the town is full of Wing Carey's hands? They know you're coming and have been watching you for days." Gatlin looked up, smiling. "Ma'am, you've sure got the wrong man, although if a girl as pretty as you is worried about him, he sure is a lucky fellow. I'm a stranger here. I never saw the place until an hour ago." She stepped back, puzzled, and then the door slammed open once more and a man stepped into the room. He was as tall as Jim, but thinner, and his dark eyes were angry. "Get away from him, Lisa! I'm killing him, right now!" The man's hand flashed for a gun, and Gatlin dove sidewise to the floor, drawing as he fell. A gun roared in the room, then Gatlin fired twice. The tall man caught himself, jerking his left arm against his ribs. His face twisted as he gasped for breath. Then he wilted slowly to the floor, his gun sliding from his fingers. Gatlin got to his feet, staring at the stranger. He swung his eyes to the girl staring at him. "Who is that hombre?" he snapped. "What's this all about? Who did he think I was?" You're not... You are Jim Walker?" Her voice was high, amazed. "Walker?" He shook his head. "I'm sure as hell not. The name is Gatlin. I'm just drifting through." There was a rush of feet in the street outside. She caught his hand. Come quickly. They won't listen to you. They'll kill you. All the Carey outfit are in town." She ran beside him, dodging into the hotel, and then swiftly down a hall. As the front door burst open, they plunged out the back and into the alley behind the building. Unerringly, she led him to the left, and then opened the back door of another building and drew him inside. Silently, she closed the door and stood close beside him, panting in the darkness. Shouts and curses rang from the building next door. A door banged and men charged up and down outside. Jim was still holding his gun, but now he withdrew the empty shells and fed 2 into the cylinder to replace those fired. He slipped a 6th into the usually empty chamber. "What is this place?" he whispered. "Will they come here?" "It's a law office," she whispered. "I work here part-time, and I left the door open myself. They'll not think of this place." Stealthily, she lifted the bar and dropped it into place. "Better sit down. They'll be searching the streets for some time." He found the desk and seated himself on the corner, well out of line with the windows. He could see only the vaguest outline of her face. She was, he remembered, pretty. The gray eyes were wide and clear, her figure rounded yet slim. "What is this?" he repeated. "What was he gunning for me for?" "It wasn't you. He thought you were Jim Walker of the XY. If you aren't actually him, you look enough like him to be a brother, a twin brother." "Where is he? What goes on here? Who was that hombre who tried to gun me?" She paused and seemed to be thinking, and he had the idea she was still uncertain whether to believe him or not. "The man you killed was Bill Trout. He was the bad man of Paradise County in Segundo on Wing Carey's flying sea spread. Walker called him a thief and a murderer in talking to Carey, and Trout threatened to shoot him on sight. Walker hasn't been seen since, and that was 4 days ago, so everybody believed Walker had skipped the country. Nobody blamed him much." "What's it all about?" Gatlin inquired. "North of here, up beyond Black Rock, is Alder Creek country, with some rich bottom hayland lying in several corners of the mountains. This is dry country, but that Alder Creek area has springs and some small streams flowing down out of the hills. The streams flow into the desert and die there, so the water is good only for the man who controls the range." "And that was Walker?" "No, up until 3 weeks ago it was old Dave Butler."
Lamar made his characters come alive on the page, and his ability to capture the spirit and authenticity of the Wild West was unrivaled. Mistakes Can Kill You transports you to a world that you're never going to want to leave, and it proves that Louis Lamar will always be the king of spinning a classic Western yarn. Now, if that appeals to you, head to audibletrial.com/Ron's Amazing Stories, and you can have Mistakes Can Kill You for free. Here's what Audible has set up for us. They are offering a free audiobook and 30 days to give you the opportunity to check out the service. This also grants you access to podcasts, originals, and more free listens which are updated constantly. So to download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/Ron's Amazing Stories. Thank you, Audible. And now it's time for your stories.
These are your stories, sent by you, for you.
Our stories for this time have a Western feel to them. If I'm being honest, I'll have to say that if I have a favorite type of ghost story, it has to be those that are connected with the Old West. We have had a number of these over the years, and someday I would like to put them all together into a full-length show with Sylvia and get her thoughts on the subject. But for now, here are two stories that follow the theme. Our first story comes from Penny Elrod, who lives in New York. Now you might be thinking, a Western story from New York? Come on now. Hold on and give this story a listen that Penny has titled The Man in the Hat. This happened to me when I was 11 years old. I was spending the summer in a smallish town in North Dakota with my dad. Typical divorce story. He lived in an old apartment building full of old people on a corner lot with huge trees. Out front was a plaque about a famous gunfight between two ranches. I guess there was a church here at some point where the fight broke out. There's always been a creepy vibe about the whole place, but not many tangible things happened. I do remember sleeping under a big comforter on hot summer nights and sweating profusely because I was too afraid to be exposed to whatever creepiness lurked in the dark corners of my room. There was one night that I heard the bathroom fan on and the sink running, as if someone were brushing their teeth or shaving in the wee hours. My dad said it wasn't him, but who knows? On the day of my most memorable experience in that apartment, my dad was at work, so I was home alone in the apartment, doing what unattended kids did in 2009, playing video games. I was there all morning and all afternoon, enjoying my independence. Late afternoon rolled around, and I decided it was time to log off and ride my bike across town to my grandma's house. I turned off all the lights and shut the door to leave. I realized within a few seconds that I had forgotten to lock the front door. So I turned around and reopened it. As I opened the door, I heard a rustling sound. It sounded like someone digging through plastic grocery bags under the sink. And then I saw him. There was a man standing in the kitchen, leaning cowboy style with one bent leg across the counter area. He had a cowboy-type hat on and was looking down. He was solid black, shadow, seemingly flat, with no dimension. Then he turned his head to look up at me with stark white eyes that made no sense and a creepy, slow, white smile. I screamed and slammed the door shut, not caring that it was unlocked. I ran as fast as I could down the 3 stories of stairs to get the heck out of the building and safely to my grandma's house. Coincidentally, as I exploded through the front door of the building, I crashed into my dad, who was just getting home. I didn't explain a thing to him and just kept going. Fast forward years later, I'm a teenager living with my mom in Minnesota. I had a few friends sleeping over at my house, and we were all camped out in the living room. The next morning, one of my friends said that she saw a creepy man in the pantry of the kitchen. I told her it must have been my mom's boyfriend. She was creeped out and said no, it definitely was not him. Then she described the man she saw. It was exactly what I had seen several years prior and stayed away at my dad's. Each experience would be creepy on its own, but combined, I felt afraid, paranoid, and even violated. How long had this thing been around? Who is it? What is it? Is it there when I can't see it? So many questions. I looked online and read others' stories, and I've come to find this man in a hat is a pretty common sighting, which is even more strange. Penny Elrod, New York. Well, Penny, we've had a number of shadow men in hats on the show, and I myself have had experience with these guys. It appears to be a thing, but with no explanation. Thank you for sharing your story. It does have a Western feel to it, but I do think I'll put it in the category of shadow creatures. This next story comes from one of the most Western states I know, New Mexico.
But Ron, New Mexico is in the South.
It is, but roll with it. It was sent in by Crystal Barnhill via the story submission page on the main website. She has titled it The Kitchen Cowboy. My parents live in a little community in Corrales, New Mexico. The houses are nice, and most people have a horse or two, or peacocks, or emus, or llamas, or alpacas. From the moment they moved in, they started having electrical issues. Bulbs were burning out daily, the lights were turning on and off, their TV would just start changing channels or blast the volume. One year I flew in for my brother's wedding, and it was decided that my husband, our 4-month-old son, and I would stay with my parents. The bedroom we were in was on the south wing of the home, and my parents had the master suite on the north wing. Both were down long hallways that were separated by the main living areas of the dining room, living room, and kitchen. There's a lot of sand here, so all of the floors were either tile or hardwoods. Because of this, you typically wore some type of house shoe or slippers to walk around. Anyway, one of my parents' horses, Sonny, was super smart and was known for letting himself out of his pen at night and then walking around the yard. At 3 a.m., my first night there, I woke up to the sound of cowboy boots on the hardwood floors in the kitchen. It is a very distinct noise for those who have not heard it before, and one that I'm used to because we all wore cowboy boots when we would go out by the horses. So my mind instantly thinks that Sonny has gotten out of his pen again, and my dad was just washing up in the kitchen after corralling him. I rolled over and went back to sleep, forgetting about it. In the morning, my parents left early, so I couldn't talk to them about it. I was having coffee in the living room, and my parents' dog was sitting right next to me. He suddenly stood up and ran to the south wing of the house. He started growling and barking. I jumped up because my son was still sleeping back there, and I didn't want the dog to wake him. The hair was standing up on the back of his neck, and he was upset. When I got to him, I saw a man in what would be considered cowboy gear walking into the bathroom and then disappearing. The dog instantly looked at me, proud of himself for scaring it off. I, however, was not impressed. My son awoke shortly after, and I didn't see my parents until later at the rehearsal dinner. They were so busy, and I didn't get a chance to mention any of this to them on that day. We go back to the house, and everyone goes to sleep. At 2 a.m., I hear someone call my name from the hallway. I heard the boots on the tile retreating to the kitchen area, followed by a constant pacing sound in the kitchen. I was getting a little freaked out, but I talked myself down from worry and chalked it up to my dad again. Once I'm awake, it takes me a while to go back to sleep. So I figured I'd give my dad some company, since he obviously can't sleep, nor will he stop stomping around. I get up and start walking down the hallway, irritated at the racket that my dad was causing and hoping that it doesn't wake my husband or son. I round the corner, and the kitchen is pitch black. Suddenly, everything stopped. I flipped on the light switch closest to me because I was a little spooked now, understanding that this was not my dad. While standing there for several minutes in a stupor, my dad came down the hallway. I could hear his slippers on the floor. He sees me up and asks why I'm awake, and explains that he came to check on the light because sometimes it will come on all by itself. So I told him about the boots, the dog, and the cowboy. He said that their dog always barks down that hallway and that my mom has heard the boots in the kitchen as well. About a year later, we were back at the house staying with my parents. I heard those boots again the first night, so I walked into the dark kitchen and said out loud that I didn't appreciate being woken up each time I stayed here and to please refrain from walking around all night. I didn't hear the boots after that. However, my son and dog would be playing together and they would both stop and stare at the wall. I did manage to take a photo of the two of them right after they had one of these freeze and stare moments. I caught an orb right where they had both looked. Crystal Barnhill, Houston, Texas. Well, Crystal, that is quite the story. And I want to thank you for sharing it. This definitely has a Western theme, and I have no explanation for your cowboy or what it is that you might have seen, other than the fact that it's downright creepy. Well, that's it for this time. If you have a story that you would like to share like Crystal did, head to the main website at ronsamazingstories.com. Click on the story submission banner, leave your story, give it a title, and please tell me where you're from. I'll read it if I can. Our featured story continues the Western theme with Matt Dillon and the radio series Gunsmoke. There's no hero like a Western hero. Who can forget Kane in High Noon, who has to abandon his bride to save the town from bad guys? Or Lonesome Dove's Gus McCrae, who is still devoted to his long-lost love, even though she's married someone else, and is taking his friend home to bury him. Truly an honorable man. The Western takes us to a time when men were tough and women were tougher. And the cattle? Well, they meant everything. Our story today pits the famous Doc Holliday against a dad and his son with Marshall Dillion stuck smack dab in the middle. It is titled simply Doc Holliday and first aired on July 19th, 1952.
Around Dodge City and in the territory on west, there's just one way to handle the killers and the spoilers, and that's with the U.S. Marshal and the smell of Gunsmoke.
Gunsmoke, starring William Conrad. The story of the violence that moved west with young America. The story of a man who moved with it. Matt Dillon, United States Marshal.
Hey, all you pretty travelers, you listen to me. You gotta get welcome to Dodge City proper like. Hey, you there, mister. I said you.
You addressing me, sir?
I reckon I am. You a preacher?
Not exactly.
You dress like a preacher.
If you'll excuse me.
Back up, fancy pants. If you ain't no preacher, I figure on making you dance some for the folks.
You think you can hoorah me?
Dude, I said dance. Dance or the next shot will take off one of your toes.
I don't think I'd like that.
Doc, no. All right, Thorne, put up the gun.
Marshal, you got a wild and woolly town here.
Marshal, you move aside. I'm going to make this grinning dude kick up his heels for us.
I'd say that might be quite a trick, Thorne. Unless he's changed a lot since I last met him. Have you, Doc?
Not for the good, Matt.
I was afraid.
You pasty-faced tenderfoot. I said for
Shut
you...
up, Thorne. He's drunk, Doc.
He's dead. You just don't know it yet.
I'll take it good if you'd meet me later at my office.
All right, Matt. To you.
Well, that's sure a lot of talk. Now I'm going to shoot that dude's boot heels.
Fire one shot and I'll pistol whip you, Thorne.
What's that? You're kind of forgetting who's holding a gun, ain't you? Oh!
I wasn't forgetting.
Oh, my wrist. You broke my wrist.
I doubt it. Now let's go to jail.
Oh, you can't put me in jail. I'm Thorne Finley.
Move.
Oh, you wait till I tell Big Jack about this, and I will, too.
Do that. He might be grateful to me for saving your neck. You pulled some fool stunts, Thorne, but you've never been closer to dying than just a minute ago.
You mean from that fancy pants? Oh, I could handle 6 like him.
That makes you a lot of man. I can name a dozen pretty good gun hands who can't handle one of it.
What?
That's Doc Holliday.
There you are. Salute, Matt.
Salute, Doc. That sounds worse, Doc.
Yeah, I got orders to go to Arizona. Air's dry there, better for my lungs.
Going?
Thought I might. Wyatt invited me to visit him. He and Virgil and Morgan are the law down there. Some little mining town called Tombstone.
Well, it sounds peaceful anyway.
If it isn't, it will be by the time Wyatt Earp gets through. He is the peacemakingest man I ever met outside of you. Matt, who was the tellerhead down at the depot anyway?
Oh, Thorne? He's just a spoiled kid.
Kid? Couldn't be much younger than you.
Sure, but Thorne never grew up. His father has coddled him and protected him and gotten him out of scrapes ever since he was a pup. He's never had to be a man. Not with Big Jack wet nursing him.
Big Jack? Big Jack Finley?
Oh, you know him?
I've heard of him.
Well, that figures. He owns about half of Kansas. Star in a box runs more cows than he can count.
Swings a lot of weight in Dodge?
Yeah, too much.
Mr. Dillon? Mr. Dillon, somebody said that Doc Holliday had come into town today and he... Oh, excuse me.
It's all right, Chester. Why don't you shake hands with him?
Don't mind if I shake with my left hand. It's kind of habit.
Yeah, I know. Mr. Dillon has the same habit.
He would. How about dinner tonight, Matt?
Sure. How long will you be in Dodge?
Not long. Just till I finish a chore.
Oh? That, chore have anything to do with Big Jack Finley?
Might say so. Gonna kill him.
All right, Dillon. Turn him loose.
You, forgot to close the door, Mr. Finley.
You're going to turn my boy loose? Or I'm going to have to do it for you.
You got a writ of habeas corpus?
Writ? Thorne didn't commit no crime.
The charges are drunken, disorderly, disturbing the peace, and attempted assault with a deadly weapon.
I wash.
You still need a writ.
But, man, Judd and Nathan does what I say, and you know it. Don't you think I can get a writ?
I'm sure you can and will. You always do.
Then what's the point, Dillon? It's just a lot of useless red tape.
It's a law. Close the door on the way out. All right, Thorne.
Didn't I tell you Big Jack would get me out? When are you going to learn you can't play?
Save the speech.
The law can't touch a Finley. You ought to get smart, Marshal.
Like you?
Sure, like me. Hi, Big Jack.
You okay, son?
Fine.
Anything else, Mr. Finley?
Why, yes. My boy here is a little boisterous sometimes, I know. High-spirited, you understand?
Uh-huh. So?
So, I want to put a stop to all this nonsense of yours, arresting him every time he kicks up his heels a bit.
Now, go on.
Well, I'm offering you a job. Let's say, protecting my interests. $200 a month.
And no work, naturally.
I see we understand each other perfectly. No work, of course.
All I have to do is just shut my eyes whenever Junior here breaks the law, huh?
I said we understand each other. There's no need to elaborate on it, Dillon.
There's a big need. Only how do I explain to a person like you that some men don't wear a price tag?
Huh?
How do I explain how I feel about a so-called respectable citizen making the law his private doormat?
Hey, you're nothing but the stupid gunman I've always thought you were. I understand you took the part of Doc Holliday against my son.
I kept Thorne from committing suicide, yeah.
You sided with a notorious killer against an important citizen of this community. Now I'm telling you, Dillon, Holliday, I don't want him in Dodge tomorrow.
Doc may be a gunfighter, but he's clear with the law, Finley, and a better man than your son will ever be.
What? Why,
That hurts, doesn't it?
You... I'm serving notice, Marshal. You run that killer out of Dodge City, or I'll do it myself.
Big Jack Finley, cattleman and self-made king of southern Kansas. No better or worse than most of the men carving empires out of the West, until love for his son blinded him to the fact that Thorne Finley had gone bad. And from here on, I knew the war was on between Big Jack and me.
So Big Jack Finley's going to run me out of town, huh?
No, unless I do it first.
Oh? I do something naughty, Matt?
Well, you threatened a man's life.
That... And just between friends, Matt.
Anything else, Doc? Not murder.
Murder? I give him an even break.
With you, that's still murder. Don't you think you better tell me about it?
Mm-hmm. What if I don't tell you?
Now, then my job's to warn Finley and try to protect him.
You're a tough man to be friends with, Matt.
It applies to you, too, doesn't it?
Guess maybe it does at that. Didn't realize how I put you on the spot by spouting off my good intentions. Sorry.
Forget it. You want to talk to me?
All right. Remember a girl named Ruth Davis?
Mm-hmm. Died in a riding accident a few months ago. Always wondered if it wasn't suicide. She lost her brother 2 weeks before that.
No accident. No suicide.
You sure?
Sure. You know, Ruth and her brother ran the ranch alone.
Mm-hmm.
A man started pestering Ruth, and she hated him. Her brother kicked the man off the ranch. This fella dry-gulched Ruth's brother, made it look like a robbery.
You have any proof of this?
Yeah. Ruth was afraid to go to the law, so she sent a letter to me. Here, read it yourself. She says the man was Finley and says she expects him to try and shut her up for good.
Well, that doesn't mean it's Big Jack.
I went to see Ruth's folks. They had her belongings. Among them, I found this.
Watch chain.
Engraved JF on the clasp. Jack Finley. You see why I've got to kill him, Matt? He forced Ruth's horse over that cliff, sure. But do you still think she died accidental?
No. But who's responsible is something for a court to decide.
Court? With Finley's money and influence, he wouldn't spend 5 days in jail even if he was convicted, which he wouldn't be.
He doesn't own the court.
Maybe not, but it's still the most powerful man in the state against a dead girl whose only friend is Doc Holliday. How do you think a judge will decide?
Doc, I'm going to ask you a favor.
Make it one I can give.
I got an idea, but you must let me handle it my way. Give the law a chance.
All right, Matt, I can wait.
Thank you. I'll keep this letter and chain for a while.
All right, but if the law fails, I'll brace Big Jack Finley when he walks out of the courthouse.
And you'll be bracing 2 men, Doc. Finley and me. Come in.
Morning, Marshal. Looks like it'll be a fine day.
Well, you're up kind of early just to bring me a weather report, aren't you, Judge Nathan?
Huh? Oh, Well, I want to see you.
Go right ahead. You mind if I finish shaving?
No, please do. Just thought I'd chat with you about the...
Barker Fenley's?
Yes. It seems that Big Jack's very upset by your attitude.
I'm not surprised.
Feels you're a little rough on his boy.
I am. But then his boy's a little rough.
Yeah. Well, perhaps Thorne is high-spirited, like yesterday.
Yesterday he was just plain high. Tell me, Judge Nathan, how do you like being on Fenley's payroll?
What?
You know, you used to be a pretty decent person.
Oh, you can't talk to me like...
Yes, I can. I'm sending a copy of Thorne's record to the governor.
Governor?
And with it, I'm sending a list of the writs you've issued to get him out of jail and a copy of the court records.
I've only tempered my justice with mercy, that's all.
Thorne's been arrested for 18 offenses, convicted of 10, spent no time in jail, and paid a total of $15 in fines. I'd say you've been very merciful.
You said you were sending this to the governor. You haven't actually mailed it yet?
No. You got enough.
Not that I don't feel justified in any decisions I've made, but such a report might cause undue talk at the Capitol.
And ruin your political hopes. Well, my conditions are simple. Get off Fenley's payroll now.
Very well.
And give me cooperation from here on, no matter who's involved. Do that and I shelve the report.
I'll do it.
Mr. Dillon, trouble's a-making.
What kind of trouble, Chester?
It's Big Jack Finley, Mr. Dillon. He's rounding up his crew at the Alfraganza. They're going to ride Doc Holliday out of town on a rail. Did you cut yourself shaving?
We will return for the second act of Gunsmoke in just a moment. But first, don't forget, starting Monday, CBS Radio's tremendous news staff will start bringing you the complete coverage of the Democratic Convention in Chicago. As you found during the Republican Convention, CBS Radio never misses. So, starting Monday, stay with CBS Radio all day and evening for the Democratic Convention. Now, the second act of Gunsmoke.
Doc.
What?
Wake up, Doc. It's Matt.
Oh.
What's up? Trouble. Lots of trouble. Big Jack Finley's organizing a little citizens committee of his own hand-picked men coming to escort you out of town.
On a rail?
Yeah, that's the general idea. Here, take a shotgun.
Yeah, I'll hide it under the covers, modest like.
Here. I'll wait against the wall here.
Good. That'll put him in a crossfire.
If it comes to that.
There's enough of them, we're in a spot.
Yeah, likely we are.
You're risking your neck to save me some bruises. One I owe you, friend Matt.
It's my job.
Still one I owe you.
There he is. Wrap him up. All right, stop right there. I'll shoot the man who takes another step.
You think you're going to stop us, Dillon?
I think so. Me and Doc.
Doc.
Show him, Doc.
Sure thing, Marshall. Look, boys, surprise. I sure do love surprises.
Dillon, I've got a dozen men with me.
Well, sure, about 6 of them will die, Fenley, if you don't crawl out of here fast.
And guess who'll die first, Big Jack?
You there, Moncrief. I always figured you for some brains. Get your boss out of here, quick.
Sure talking sense, Big Jack.
Shut up, Moncrief. You showing yellow.
Oh, but man, there's nothing here for us to die over.
Listen to him, Fenley. That Greener Doc is holding has 18 buckshot in each barrel.
He'll get slaughtered if he triggers that thing.
And I'm getting edgy, Finley.
And me, if I get a coughing spell, I'm liable to shoot without meaning to.
All right. This is twice you have made a Finley back down. You'll never get a third chance. Let's get out of here.
Matt, when you gonna arrest him?
When I'm ready. Not long.
I hope not. Getting impatient to see that man dead.
I got your message, Marshal. I hope it's important.
It is, Moncrief. How long you been foreman for Big Jack?
15, 16 years.
You know him pretty well. Would he be the kind to kill a girl?
No, of course not. Guess he'd kill a man if he got mad enough, but he wouldn't kill no girl, Marshal.
Well, I have proof that he did. A girl and her brother, but it doesn't set right. I'm hoping you can help.
What's your proof, Marshal?
A letter that names Finley as the man. Ruth Davis wrote it before she died.
Ruth Davis.
And this watch chain was found with her belongings. It's engraved on the back.
I know. I was with Big Jack when he bought this chain in Chicago. It was right after his wife died.
Big Jack wear it all the time?
You rode the right hunch, Marshal.
What?
Thorne is your man, just like you figured. He had a yen for the Davis girl, but he kept it quiet. Guess he didn't want it known she throwed him over.
But the watch chain...
Big Jack gave that to Thorne on his 25th birthday. Whole ranch can testify to that.
Good. All right, thank you, Moncrief.
You, gonna try and arrest Thorne?
Why?
If Big Jack believes Thorne killed that girl, it'll break his heart.
Broke her neck.
If he don't believe it,
then
he'll protect Thorne. And, Marshal, there's not enough lawmen in the state of Kansas to make Big Jack give up his son.
Oh, it's you, Marshal. And,
John Holliday. Doc, this is Judge Nathan.
Holliday? Oh, yes, I've heard of you.
I've heard of you, too, Judge. Wonder which has heard the worst.
What's that? Why,
Judge, I'm here on business.
Oh, of course. Come in, won't you? In my study here, so we won't be disturbed. Now, what is it, Marshal?
I want you to swear out a warrant for Thorne Finley's arrest. Charge, murder. You sure you want to go with me, Doc?
I'm sure.
All right, hold up your right hand.
Oh, no, Matt, you wouldn't make me a lawman.
If you go as my deputy. I'm not letting you make this a private fight.
Yeah, but my friends, if they hear I wore a star... All right, Matt, it's your show.
You swear to uphold and enforce the laws of this community, the state of Kansas, and the United States to the best of your ability as deputy marshal, so help you God?
All of that?
All of that.
I swear.
Here, pin on this badge.
All right, man. You know, I'm feeling this badge is going to cramp my style something terrible.
We better breathe our horses going up through this pass. We still got a good ride ahead.
How far?
Oh, about 10 miles.
What do you think, Matt? Will they fight?
Well...
Stay your horse, Marshal. Grab some clouds. on the other side of the pass behind you. That's being smart, Dillon. Queen will drop you if you touch her gun butt.
You're handy at this bushwhacking, aren't you, Thorne? If Doc...
He's all right. My slug seems to have bounced off his thick skull.
Good.
Yeah, let's pull your teeth. Better you do it. With your left hand, reach down and across slow. Pull your gun out with your fingertips and toss it away.
Nervous?
Just cautious.
Or maybe this queen doesn't exist, huh, Thorne?
Queen! Queen's one of Dad's men, but I pay him extra to work for me. Any more questions?
I guess not. There's my gun.
The rifle next.
I got a penknife in my pants pocket.
You know why Holliday came to Dodge?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you do. You wouldn't be riding with him. Well, he's not going to tell any stories to my dad or anyone else.
You can't kill us, you stupid...
Not planning on killing you.
And what have you got planned?
Queen's kind of a magician. He's going to make Holliday just disappear. Folks won't care much about one of his kind.
I would. I'd care so much I'd hang you for it.
No. No, with Holliday gone, it's your word against mine. And you won't be able to approve a thing, Dillon.
You sure of that?
I'm sure. Otherwise, I'd take care of you along with Holliday. Now get on and start walking back to town. It's like I told you. Law can't touch you, Finley.
It was no time for heroics, so I walked. When I reached a turn, I cut back through the rocks, but it was too late. They were gone. And with them, the horses, guns, and Doc Holliday. 2 miles up the road, I found my horse turned loose. And with a mind full of cold hate, I raced onto the Star in a box. On the front porch of the ranch house was one of Big Jack's men.
Hold it right there.
Out of my way, mister. I'm in no mood to shake hands.
Where you heading, lawman?
You don't hear well.
Dillon.
Where's Holliday?
How should I know? Get off my ranch.
And where's that prize son of yours?
What?
Trot him out. I want him.
Do you now? What on earth for?
Thorne, put that gun away.
Oh, no. This is just in case the marshal loses his temper.
I've lost it, Junior.
Sure.
Dillon, I've had all I'm going to stand from you.
You just think you have. Where's Holliday, Thorne? Where'd Queen take him?
Holliday? Why, I haven't the faintest idea. Where is Queen, Dad?
The riding fence line, but...
See, Marshal, we don't know where your friend is.
You're under arrest, Thorne.
What's that?
Ask him to show the warrant.
Here. Read it, Finley.
Oh, no. No, that's not possible. The judge wouldn't issue a warrant without proof.
He has proof, Thorne.
This is a lie. Thorne couldn't be guilty of murder.
No. Take a look at his face.
Son.
Daddy's trying to frame me. Don't let him get away with this.
No, I won't. I won't. Get out, Dillon.
Man, open your eyes. This is not going to help
you. You heard me. I don't believe you, your warrant, or your proof. I believe my son. So get off this ranch. Get out of the state. You let me see you again, so help me, I'll kill you myself.
Forget me. You're bucking the law. You can't.
I make my own law.
So do I.
Doc Holliday.
But you're supposed to be dead. Queen was supposed to...
He's the one who's dead. I carry a knife in my boot just for men like him.
Thorne, God help me. You are guilty.
He sure is. And if he knows any prayers, he'd better get them over with.
No, Doc. He goes back with us as our prisoner.
You're wrong, Marshal. I'll take care of my son.
Dad. No.
You rotten, lying, murderous.
Please don't.
I should have strangled you in the cradle when you were...
I'll shoot you all!
Finley, look out! I threw myself at Finley and both of us hit the floor, rolling away from Thorne as he raised his gun to fire. Then in the doorway, the blood-stained, terrible figure of Doc Holliday went into action. His pale hand blurred over his holster.
Through Thorne!
Ruth?
Stage is ready to leave, Mr. Holliday.
Thanks, Chester.
You sure you want to stay around a while, Doc?
Yeah, we're good friends, Matt, but you're a peace officer. I guess I'm not a very peaceful man.
You could be, Doc.
No, I'm not going to change, and you shouldn't. Law needs men like you. No, if I stayed, there's too good a chance I might cross you.
Yeah?
Then I'd have to meet you over gun barrels, and it's one thing I'm afraid of. So long, Matt.
Good luck, Doc.
My. I never would have thought Doc Holliday was scared of meeting anyone in a gunfight.
You don't understand, Chester. Doc's afraid because he might beat me.
Well, that is a good one. In fact, it's one of my favorite episodes of Gunsmoke. Certainly a different view of who Doc Holliday was. But what was he really like? John Henry Holliday was an American gambler, gunfighter, and dentist. He developed a reputation as having killed more than a dozen men in various altercations. But modern researchers have concluded that, contrary to popular belief, Holliday killed only one man. At age 21, Holliday earned a degree in dentistry from the Pennsylvania College of Dental Surgery. Hoping the climate in the American Southwest would ease his tuberculosis symptoms, he moved to that region and became a gambler, a reputable profession in Arizona at the time. Over the next few years, he reportedly had several confrontations. He saved Wyatt Earp, a famous lawman and gambler, while in Texas. Afterwards, they became friends. In 1879, he joined Earp in Las Vegas, New Mexico, and then rode with him to Prescott, Arizona, and finally to Tombstone. Then came the OK Corral, which resulted in the famous shootout. On May 15, 1882, Holliday was arrested in Denver on a Tucson warrant for murdering Frank Stillwell. Wyatt Earp learned of an extradition request for Holliday and arranged for the Colorado governor of the time to deny Holliday's extraction. Holliday spent the few remaining years of his life in Colorado. He died of tuberculosis in his bed at the Hotel Glenwood at age 36. How about that? That was episode number 576, and we keep rolling on. I want to thank our storytellers today, Penny Elrod and Crystal Barnhill. Those stories were amazing. If you want to follow the podcast or the blog, head to ronsamazingstories.com. There you will find any of the links I mentioned and how to contact us. Do you want to help the show? The best thing you can do is to tell your friends all about it, and please leave reviews or feedback wherever you listen. Clicking that follow or like button helps us grow. Thank you for listening, and I hope you come again to find out what are Ron's Amazing Stories.
All of the vintage audio used in the podcast is believed to be in the public domain. Ron's Amazing Stories does not own the rights to any of the old-time radio used here. If you hold the rights to any of the shows played, please contact us immediately at ronsamazingstories.com.